Good morning and welcome to Funky Rainbow this stripy Saturday morning. It's such a pleasure to be hosting a show that focuses on books about the magnificent national animal of India, the tiger. And you all know, at least for me, the first thing that comes to mind when we say the word tiger is William Blake's poem. Tiger, tiger, burning bright in the forest of the night. What immortal hand or eye has framed thy fearful symmetry? The great thing about framing the symmetry of the tiger is the fact that we have a big clutch of children's books. Lots of them on the tiger that really try to demystify this magnificent beast. Why a theme, why a tiger themed bazaar? Well, it was International Tiger Day yesterday, and the day which is celebrated to raise awareness and garner support for this magnificent but endangered cat. It's such a pleasure to be hosting this show this morning, especially because of the guest who's going to be joining us later in the show. We are giant, let me say that loud and clear. We are tiger size fans of Rohan Chakravarti, who's going to join us later today. Him and his green humor books and cartoon strips have absolutely regaled us week after week after week when the strips were appearing in the Hindu, and making us chuckle, but also making us think and be aware of the things around us. So lovely to see our friends. Book Pickle, good morning to you. Ramendra Kumar, always a pleasure to see you here at the bazaar. And we are really, like I said the last time that you came up as well, delighted that you're up and about and able to watch us. We send a lot of tiger power your way. Ki aap bhi, you will also be roaring very soon with us at the bazaar. So of course, like I said, this a chat with Rohan Chakravarti later in the show at 12 noon, the icing on our ninth birthday month cake. This is July 2022 is Funky Rainbow's ninth birthday month, and we've been doing different things across the 3 or 4 weeks to try and showcase Indian children's books in greater color, in glorious technicolor, actually. And, we are utterly delighted that the icing on our birthday cake is this conversation with Rohan Chakravarti, which is going to follow later in the show, because we are such big fans of him. So, of course, what does it mean, International Tiger Day? We all are aware that two-thirds of the world's tiger population is possibly in India. And, we've heard a lot of stories of conservation success across the last decade. There have also been stories of human animal conflict. There have also been stories of poaching. But, this magnificent beast, there's been a lot of effort on the ground and, via books and programs that involve children to conserve this magnificent creature and ensure that it is there, it shares the planet with us for a long time to come. Now the thing is, we have books in our collection, that some of which showcase some success stories, some of which bring highlight the fact of the problems that we face, the problems that conservationists face, and what each and every one of us can do. Just because we have some success stories, does that mean that the common man can just put his hands together and relax, basically, right? No, each one of us needs to do something to preserve not just the tiger, but all the species that share the planet with us, be it flora, be it fauna. And there are lots and lots of days that get celebrated to highlight this, to ensure that we remember and we do every little thing that we can do to save the species that share the planet with us. Lovely, Devansh, to see you here this morning. I'm sure you're a big fan of Rohan's as well. And you say, good morning, tigers are my favorite wild animals. My God, we just love the fact. And I think the tiger books that we're going to recommend and the conversations that we're going to have will definitely have you quite excited. So, I'm going to get started with my recommendations this morning, and I'm delighted to start off with a book that's written by Sejal Mehta and illustrated by our guest of the day, Rohan Chakravarti. The delightful, lovely Watch Out, the Tiger is Here. It's a slim little picture book, but how much it contains within its pages, about the tiger moving through the forest, and how each and every creature, whether it's an animal or a bird, knows. And there are different kinds of alarm calls that each one of them have to let us know that the tiger is here, to let each other know that the tiger is here. Rohan's delightful, cartoon style illustrations, really bringing the tiger alive, bringing all the creatures of the jungle alive, and their sounds. You can see the book is full of it: cow, cow, cock. I mean, when he comes up later in the show, I want to know if that's exactly what each of these animals sound like. Written by Sejal Mehta, illustrated by Rohan Chakravarti, a book for our youngest readers, really. It's lovely that you can give out a book to a child as young as 1 or 2, or even 3 years. And this, many of the books that we recommend today, working across age groups depending on how you introduce them, these books, to our young readers. The next recommendation, also a book from Pratham, Tiger, Tiger, Where Are You? I just love this one, by Mujahid Khan and Manjari Chakravarti. It's such a lovely book. It's about a tiger researcher who's looking for a tiger in the jungle. He finds plenty of signs. He's able to see, for instance, some claw marks on the trees. He's able to see different little things that tell him that this tiger is about somewhere here. But where is the big cat himself? What is lovely is that, it just, you read the book and you understand that there are so many ways of seeing the tiger without actually seeing the tiger. And Manjari Chakravarti's moody illustrations doing a fabulous job of capturing that eagerness to see the tiger but yet not see him. And I'm sure many of us are familiar with this, right? Like, I mean, I remember being on pre-COVID, going to Corbett National Park and spending 4 days trying to see the tiger. And there are stories that abound everywhere. At one point, I was with my niece and nephew, and they wanted to go into town to buy something, and we got into an auto and went into town. We were staying a little away from town, essentially, and the auto driver regaled us with so many stories of seeing tigers, like just like where we were going by auto. And the thing is, and you feel that, man, can I see the tiger? We didn't manage to see the tiger on that trip to Corbett, but this book really did that, about how one can see the tiger without actually seeing the tiger. We too saw some pug marks, we too saw some claw marks on trees, and but not the big cat himself. But he will, I'm sure, reveal himself at some point in some trip, with patience and with repeated visits to various national parks where one can see the tiger. Divya Menon saying good morning to everyone, and I hope that Avyukt and Ameya joining us as well. I'm sure y'all are big fans of Rohan Chakravarti, who's going to join us later in the show. I do know from your parents that you are huge admirers of his work and love seeing his cartoons. And I think Devansh and Avyukt, and you probably have Naturalist Ruddy as well in your collection. Our next tiger book, which is one of our all-time favorite books. It's an old one. It's definitely Sham and Shram, aka Grey Stroke's favorite as well. Tiger on a Tree by Anushka Ravishankar, and illustrated by the wonderful Pulak Biswas, the late Pulak Biswas. What a fantastic book this is for young readers on the tiger. Tiger, tiger on a tree. Is it true? Can it be? Did he fly? Did he flee? Did he fall and hurt his knee? Did he cry? Did he plead? If you want to know, pick up the book and read. That's exactly, Anushka's quirky rhyme about this tiger, that's dashing across a village of people, and Pulak Biswas's fantastic illustrations, as you can see, just in two colors, these just the vivid hues of black and orange to reflect the colors of the tiger. Such a visual treat this book is. And it is a comic drama, of course, because Anushka can write rhymes so well. And but the message of conservation worked in beautifully into this story. I mean, I know that this is meant for our youngest readers, but one can look at the pages over and over and over again because of how beautiful Pulak Biswas's illustrations are in this book. I mean, these are books that you can, Tiger, Tiger on a Tree. I do know, a friend who started to read it to her daughter when she was just one. And in a bit the child herself was recalling the lines and sort of waiting for the rhymes to come up so she could sort of say it. These are just beautiful books on the tiger for our youngest readers. I can see Avyuk saying, yes, we love him so much, especially naturalist Ruddy, Rohan Chakravarti, if you're watching, lots of fanboys and fangirls here of all age groups. Absolutely delighted that you're going to join us later in the show. And I just love that photograph that you've shared, with us of your books and, Srishti, along with you and posing so wonderfully well in this photograph. I mean, I know you say she's really a handful, but she looks absolutely sweet in this photograph. We do have our guest appearance quiz. I think all of you who are familiar with the show know of guest appearance. We'll do 3 questions at 15-minute intervals each, before our guest comes in. And the answers to each of these questions is, it's one person or one book or, just one thing. 3 clues. You have to, watch all the 3 clues, and then the Google form will go up on the chat over here, and you can you can fill out the Google form and send in your responses. We will pick the winners next week, winners who will win gift vouchers from Funky Rainbow. And I know our theme last week was on dinosaurs. We didn't get that many entries, for the winners, because I think it was a little tougher. But a couple of you absolutely got it right. It was Dr. Ashok Sahani. The answer to that, the paleontologist that we were referring to, is Dr. Ashok Sahani, who is really called the fossil man of India, for facilitating some fantastic dino digs that put India squarely on the dino map. So this guest appearance now, the question now, and for our friends on Instagram, you can see this first question, which is a text question, but the subsequent 2 ones are, a visual clue and an audio clue. And we're not going to be able to stream that and stream that on Instagram, but you can go to our social media pages after the Buzzaar. The quiz will be up there. Do take a look, fill in the form, and put in the entries. We're not doing fastest finger first. We just draw 2 lucky winners every week. So you can participate even if you don't see these 2 questions. So guest appearance now, Sham, for the first question. Okay, that was the first question. It was in 1961 that he saw his first tigers at Corbett National Park, and that was the beginning of a lifelong affair with India's national animal. And he's a naturalist, a conservationist, and a writer of over 25 books. If I'm not mistaken, it's probably 34 books, and he has produced a range of programs for television and devoted 5 decades of his life to the tiger and its habitat. Who is he? More questions coming up later. I'm sure lots of answers buzzing in your head. The Google form is not going to be up on the chat just now. It'll go up after the third question. So do, listen to the other two clues and fill in the form when you get a chance. Of course, I also wanted to say that today is special because Rohan's joined us, but today is also really wonderfully special because of after 2 years of the COVID pandemic. I mean, we are a part of our team. He's actually at a school in Whitefield, in Kinfolk Montessori at Whitefield in Bangalore, doing sessions with author storyteller Vijay Lakshmi Nagaraj and author Niyati Sharma. I can't tell you what a delight it is. This is the first of the sessions after the last live one that we did at a school in February 2020. To more than 2 years, 2 years and a couple of months have gone past since we've actually been at school. And one part of our team, and I can't believe that it's possible to stretch resources and a team like we do at the moment. A part of our team, Muttama and Bharti, are at Kinfolk Montessori in Whitefield doing sessions live in the real world. It's such a pleasure, and we're so glad that the first of the, let's bring everything back to normal sessions started right in our ninth birthday month. We are going to now have a lot of school visits that get lined up, and it may not always be possible to do a bazaar and be at the school at the same time. So we are contemplating doing recorded sessions which we can stream up, that we can stream in the stipulated on a stipulated Saturday morning. So I mean, that's going to be a fun experience as well. But I can't tell you how delighted Team Funky Rainbow is to be back in the real world. And when really we are able to afford it, if we could actually stream bazaars live off the places that we're going to be in, that would be something else, really. Keeping fingers crossed and hoping that'll happen sometime soon. I'm going to continue with my next recommendation, and it's a nice, big book called Lightning, published by Iktara, written by the Hindi writer Prabhat, and illustrated by Alan Shaw. What a fantastic book it is. Look at the size of it. These big books are just so amazing simply because of the sheer size of them. I mean, if young readers could just be peering through the pages, in fact, literally, like, standing face to face with things on the pages. And I think, it is valid for old readers as well. We can crawl on fours, or we can get down on fours and see the magnificent pages of this book. Now, what's Lightning all about? I mean, it's about, I mean, I just love the way the book starts. I mean, there's वह किसी पहाड़ी टीले पर खड़ी हो जाती, चांद की ओर मुंह उठाती और गरजती आवाज में अपने प्यारे जंगल को पुकारती, रणथंबोर रणथंबोर रणथंबोर। रणथंबोर की हवाओं की सीटी जैसे आवाज गूंजती, लाइटनिंग लाइटनिंग लाइटनिंग। What a great start to a book. Obviously, it's about this tigress called Lightning and his beloved, and her beloved jungle, Ranthambore, the Ranthambore jungles. What a great book about the fantastic relationship between the different animals in the jungle, between the humans that live on the borders of the jungle, sometimes inside the jungle itself. I think, for those of you who can read Hindi, and even for those of you who can't, I mean, this is such a spectacular visual treat on the beauty of a magnificent tigress called Lightning at Ranthambore. I'm going to show you one more page, and it's wonderful that Parag, brings out these big books, because I think they're such excellent tools of literacy. really wonderful ways to get readers sort of absolutely into a book. I mean, to just absolutely grab their attention and bring them into a book so wonderfully. So that was Lightning, published by Tara. Again, these books for our youngest readers for sure. My next recommendation this morning is a book that doesn't often come up, in our Bazaar recommendations. I don't think we've done it in a long time, actually. But it is about the Royal Bengal tiger, and it's called Dorje Stripes, written by Anshumani Rudra and illustrated by Guangzhou and Jung Ah Park. Now, what is this lovely story about? Well, it's about this tiger called Dorje, who lives, who's a beautiful Royal Bengal tiger, but alas and alack, he has no stripes on his body. So what happens in and he lives in this close to a monastery, a small monastery in Tibet, and a good-hearted monk there tries to understand why Dorje's stripes have gone missing. What has happened? Why has Dorje lost its stripes? What I love about the book is the fact that it takes us to far away, to far away Tibet. It also brings us right, back to Bengal, which is, where the Royal Bengal tiger is found, and of course takes us so heartwarmingly into the heart of Dorje, the heart of the Royal Bengal tiger. It's a lovely picture book. We would recommend it for 5, 6+ year olds. And I mean, in the best sense of the picture book tradition, some beautiful life lessons tucked away inside Dorje's story for readers of all ages. Rupa Baliga, good morning. How delightful to see you here. You say Dorje's Stripes is an eternal favorite. Love the animation version that Karadi Tales have made of the book. That's right. I do recall seeing the animation version. And I think, you do have a particular, in fact, it's through some of your posts that I understand that when you and your son read these books, like for instance The Truth About Tooth, I mean, to really see some beautiful life lessons tucked into these pages. I think some of those I have seen through your eyes, Rupa Baliga, and your son's eyes, of course. So for that, thank you very much. It's such a, I mean, I read it again yesterday. I read Dorje's Stripes again yesterday because it's been a long time since I read this one. And I absolutely thoroughly enjoyed this wonderful picture book for 6+ year olds. Haripriya Batula, good morning. How lovely to see you here. And it's such a pleasure to have you at the Bazaar. I know you run this wonderful library, and I hope a lot of these books get into the hands of kids, via fantastic initiatives like yours. Anita Satyajit, who is Devansh's mother, and I must not say Devansh Saur. That's who he is, saying, I sometimes wish my son was young once again so I could buy all of Funky Rainbow's recommendations for him. Anita, I think you have a lot of our books. We keep talking at the office saying when we run out of books, we have to go to Divya Menon's house or to Anita's house to find all these books and and to sort of, if we don't have them in our collection, to enjoy the pleasure of browsing through them. Of course, Anita Satyajit, I mistook you for Devansh's mother. There's another Anita who buys a lot of books even when her son is a little older, and her son's name is Devansh. So I mistook, you for her. But Anita Satyajit, a writer of some wonderful books for children, the Isapuram Tales, and you say, I sometimes wish my son could, was younger so I could get all these recommendations for him. You know what? You get them for yourself, whichever ones you enjoy. You will just find that you absolutely love reading them. That's exactly what this experience of revisiting books, meant for children, as the curator at Funky Rainbow has absolutely gives me so much pleasure, because when you look at it now and when you reread it, and across the last 8, 9 years we've been reading and recommending and trying to match these books to people's interest, to young readers' interest. I can't tell you how much I enjoy them, even though I'm way past the age for which these books are meant. Avyuk saying, "Oh, you're most welcome, Auntie." Anitya saying, "It's Pranav." Okay, your son is Pranav, and that's okay. But we wish Pranav's mother is going to get a lot of these books to read for herself, and perhaps also sometimes with her son who's grown up. My next recommendation is another lovely, lovely book that's quite old. It came out many, many years ago, and it's by a writer and illustrator whom we greatly admire, written by Sandhya Rao and illustrated by Proiti Roy, in Bun Bibi's Forest. I mean, it's not really a tiger's book, but it is also a tiger's book for sure. Because what is this story all about? Well, it is set in in a part of Bengal that is perhaps not the setting for too many children's books. It's set in the quiet villages of the Sundarbans. And what of the people in these quiet villages of the Sundarbans? They are terrorized by a monster who has wild eyes, sharp claws, striped skin, and pointed nails. And I do want to show you that picture. And you know what? That monster is called Dakhin Rai. Now, look at the way Dakhin Rai has been portrayed in the book. Obviously quite a bit like a tiger. Now, Dakin Rai really, sort of terrorizes the people wherever they are. He is there too. When they go into the forest to collect firewood, he is there. When they climb up the trees to gather honey, he is there. When they go to the water to fish, he is there as well. And what happens? They are just completely mortified till there is they find Bon Bibi, the protector goddess of the forest. And what of Bon Bibi? Of course, in this story, a young child is born, and the mother names that child Bon Bibi, and she eventually goes on to become the protector of the forest. And between Bon Bibi and the people, they ask the Kinrai one question: why do you do this? Why do you terrorize the people? And the answers that come about, they are central to the theme of animal human conflict. They are central to the fact that, I mean, of course, the way Proiti Roy has illustrated it, it absolutely brings alive the cultures, the syncretic cultures of the people who live in these villages. I mean, the Hindu Muslim mythologies making their way into the story so beautifully. And of course, finally, all about why it's important that we learn to live in harmony with nature. It's a lovely, the Bon Bibi myths, you're all familiar with it. I can see Haripriya Batula saying, Dakhin Roy, Rupa Baliga saying, this is an absolute favorite too. Dakhin Roy is discussed almost every day with my nephew, and he adores him. Now, the temple in Sundarbans is on our travel wish list. Yes, for me too. I actually lived for 8 years in Calcutta, but never managed to get to the Sundarbans. I've seen mangroves close to Pondicherry in Pichavaram, but the Sundarbans is definitely a travel place on my wish list. And while we haven't been able to go, there are these wonderful books that transport us right there. So this one, published by Tulika, meant for 6+ year olds. I'm going to get on to the next guest appearance question, and this one is a visual clue. So for our friends on Instagram, I'm afraid we can't stream it into your live stream, but after the bazaar is done, please do come up to our social media pages. We are The Funky Rainbow on Facebook. We are traveling_bookshop on Instagram. Do come up to the social media pages. The entire quiz is there. You can actually see all the questions and fill in the Google form and submit your entries. Question 2, Shah. Okay, that was question two. It was a photo of the person that you're supposed to identify, and maybe that gives you the answer very, very easily. My next recommendation is a book that we utterly love at Funky Rainbow, especially because we didn't know that such a book existed till its author wrote into us to say that this book had been created as a part of their conservation efforts at the Panna Tiger Reserve. And this is Our Tiger's Return, the story of the Panna Tiger Reserve from 2009 to 2015. And it's such a pleasure that the author, Piyush Seksaria, a wonderful environmentalist and conservationist himself, who's appeared on our show some I mean maybe a year, almost a year and a half ago, with his brother Pankaj Seksaria, both conservationists and environmentalists. I'm so delighted that he actually wrote this fantastic book. Now, what is the story all about? I mean, it is largely a book about the conservation success story at Panna between 2009 and 2015. You, of course, get to discover it through the eyes of Megha, who's a schoolgirl, who goes, I mean, who lives close to the Panna Tiger Reserve and is very happy to meet guests at the Panna nature camps. And, she is taking us through the conservation efforts that the entire team at Panna put in to revive the tiger figure. I mean, the number of tigers at the Panna Reserve were almost down to zero. And across a span of 10 years, they were able to get it up to 300. And that is like such an impressive success story. And I'm really glad there's at least one book for children that that sort of recounts how the success story was made possible. Of course, there's Megha and there's Murthy uncle, who's Rangaya Srinivasa Murthy, known lovingly as Murthy uncle, the ex-director of the Panna Tiger Reserve between 2009 and 2015. He is a forest officer of the Indian Forest Service, 1987 batch. And you can just see what did they do really to bring the tigers back to Panna. What were these conservation efforts all about? We are delighted that this book didn't remain just there in Panna. And, Piyush, who has written it in conjunction with Rangaya Srinivas Murthy, has managed to reach it out at least to a couple of independent bookstores, I'm sure. And I'm delighted that Funky Rainbow was perhaps the first one to get this book into our collection. It's a great one, and it's an absolute must read. I mean, we know so much about conservation efforts in the Amazon forest. We know so much about conservation efforts in Africa. We should know about some success stories, from India as well. And this one, Our Tiger's Return, absolutely brings that alive magnificently. Rupa, you're saying thank you so much for recommending this book. My son loved this book and he's made me read it several times. Absolutely a must read book. I mean, and really, getting into the nitty gritties, like what does it take to conserve, to bring back a species that has dwindled and moved out of a particular tiger reserve. I mean, going into it step by step, telling us so much about the geography of Panna as well. It's just an incredible book that all of us must read. David Williams, what a pleasure to see you here from Australia. Oh, there's a good news story in tiger conservation. Thank heavens for that. I had to write a horribly pessimistic article for them for Hoot magazine in 2011. Fortunately, for us, the tiger numbers have gone up in India in the last decade. But that certainly is no reason for us to be complacent. I mean, each one of us having to do our bit to preserve this magnificent but endangered cat, each one having to do our bit. And I know, reading these books does a lot to encourage us to go out there and think of ideas, or to assist initiatives and endeavors that that undertake the conservation of various species. My next recommendation, I'm just keeping a watch on time because our guest of the day today absolutely lots of questions for him. We're all huge fanboys and fangirls of Rohan Chakravarti, who's going to join us in another 15, 20 minutes tops, and lots of questions. So I'm just going to try and rush through a couple of more recommendations before we say hello to him. The next one, a brand new book on our shelf, which is so hilarious. It's a lovely, lovely chapter book. And I know many, many of you are watching, and you probably, don't have this one yet. This one called Grandfather's Tiger Tales, written by an author, Anjana Basu, who is absolutely, who has so many more books on the tiger alone. I mean, it's amazing how she has, I think she has 5, 8 books, perhaps 6, 7 books that she has written for children, all on the tiger. So I'm really keen to write to her and ask her why, is this, how come she is so interested in the tiger, how come she has these lovely books of fiction for children of different ages, on the tiger, and dealing with different kinds of themes. Now this one, of course, is about a grandfather, Dadu Bhai, who is regaling, who loves to tell stories about the forests of India, about the tigers in the forests of India. That's because he has roamed around the different forests of India for years and years and years. And of course, like any good grandfather, there's some fiction, there's some non-fiction, and there's some faction in his stories. It is just lovely. I read the story about a tiger that drops in to watch a cricket match. Now, how is that going to be? How is that going to feel if a tiger just walks right in when we are, screaming and shouting with a cricket match going on? So, like I said, some stories of fiction, some stories of non-fiction. There is one on the Sundarbans as well, and about Dakhin Rai as well in this book. Really entertaining collection, and meant really for our youngest readers. I'd say you can see it's the words are quite large, on the pages, and there are some illustrations to accompany in sort of intermittent pages. So we'd say 7+ for a lovely collection. But of course, the message in the in from all the stories in the book are all about learning to respect animals, learning to live in harmony with the wild. Just because Anjana Basu has done so many books on tigers, I'm going to show you a clutch of more covers. Sham, can you show the covers up of more books that Anjana has done, all on the tiger? There's In the Shadow of the Leaves. We'd say these books are a little, I would say that they are for 10, 11, 12+, depending at what age, at what level your children are reading. There's In the Shadow of the Leaves, and there is a character called Rohan in her books, in these 4 books that I'm showing you, who makes an appearance in all these books. So In the Shadow of the Leaves, this one, which I just absolutely loved, 18 Tides and a Tiger, and it made it to the shortlist of the Good Books Awards, some years ago. A fantastic, story on the tigers of Sundarbans. There's Hide and Seek Tiger, and there is, of course, are you putting up the picture of Hide and Seek Tiger? And there is Lockdown Tiger. I mean, you can just see all these books published by Terry. Great, great stories. And, really, I think what she manages to do, I've read 2 of the books that I showed you just now, is that she really gets under the tiger's skin and gives us insights that, I mean, for those of us who haven't really seen the tiger in the wild, I think she just manages to share some fantastic insights into the big cat's world through her books. So that's Anjana Basu's. We have, of course, recommended her latest one, which is for younger readers, which we'd say for 8+-year-olds or 7, 8+-year-olds, but the Terry one's definitely for 10+-year-olds. Tara Veeraraghavan, good morning. How lovely to see you at the Buzzaar. It's always a pleasure when you join in, because we know there are people of a wide range of age groups watching us at the show, and that absolutely makes us feel happy that there's readers young and old who join us to listen to our recommendations of books. I'm keeping an eye on the time. Okay, the next one. And of course, we couldn't do a bazaar on tigers without this classic called Tiger Boy. What a lovely, moody, mysterious sort of book this is. Again, set in the Sundarbans, and the story of a young boy called Neil who wants to go, whose parents want him to win a scholarship and go to the city to study. He lives in the Sundarbans, but they want him to get a scholarship and go to the city to study. But he can't leave his beloved Sundarbans behind with its magnificent trees and even more magnificent tigers. So, what's the mystery all about? A tiger cub goes missing from the reserve, from the Sundarbans reserve, and there's some evil. Poachers, there's an evil Gupta at play in the story who want to find the tiger for all the wrong reasons. What happens? Neil and his sister, they're determined to find that cub before Gupta and his goons get to it. Do they manage to save the tiger cub? It's Mitali Perkins. Her writing is just fantastic, so crisp. It just keeps you turning the pages, and she evokes, I mean, the sights and sounds of Sundarban so beautifully in this title. We're not surprised that it's won two massive awards, which is a Saba winner 2016, the South Asian Book Award, that's the Saba Award, and the Neve Book Award in 2018. If you haven't read this, if you're 10 plus and you haven't read this, it's absolutely got to be on your shelf. It's absolutely got to be in your hands to be reading for sure. I'm just going to do the last quiz question, the last guest appearance question. Sham, can we put the last question up again for our friends on Instagram? You can't see this one, but it's going to be up on our social media channels once the bazaar is done. This is an audio question.
Sunil, I'm not a scholar. I've only touched the surface. Believe me, the richness of the tiger is in every Asian society, and I've just scratched the surface. But I started this long, long ago because the tiger was mesmeric for me. It had a huge impact on me.
Okay, that was an audio track of a person who begins by saying he's no tiger expert, but believe me, he really is. He's done, I think, almost 34 books on tigers for adults, and so many TV programs and broadcasts on the tigers, and really has devoted 5 decades of his life to understand the animal and its habitat. So you have to guess who this is. The Google form, will just go up in a jiffy. Sham, you're going to put up the Google form, I assume. It's going to go up in a jiffy. And for those of you who want to fill it, you can certainly fill it. But it's also going to be available after the show. I mean, it's going to be up on our social media channels right after the bazaar. So you can also fill it at your leisure. We just pick and choose the winners by drawing lots. And of course, there are book vouchers to be won for 2 winners every week. My last clutch of recommendations before we welcome Rohan. Divya Avyukt saying, Auntie, where do we answer the question? Sham's just putting up the Google form, Avyukt. That's where you need to fill it in. You can do it right away, or you can do it after the bazaar is done. You can fill it up and put it in. It's not like the first 2 people who get the answer right get the prize. We just draw lots. So you can absolutely, Sham, have you put up the Google form? I think it's just going up on the chat, Avyukt, and you can, fill in the answers. So can everybody else who's watching. Sunila Kulkarni Gupte, what a wonderful, what a pleasure it is to have you join us at the bazaar. I'm sure you're here to listen to our fantastic guest of the day, and he is going to join us very, very shortly after I finished my last clutch of recommendations. The next 2 books that I'm going to talk about, perhaps something that many of you are familiar with because they're old books, but they are incredible books set in Ranthambore. This one called Ambushed by Nenika Methani. Such a gripping adventure story set right in Ranthambore. It's the story of two children, I mean, who absolutely are off. They've gone off for a holiday in Ranthambore, and the two children stumble upon a tiger mystery. A tiger is going to get poached. And while they go off thinking that it's going to be the dullest holiday ever, basically, because they're all gadget geeks. At least the protagonist of the book, Tara, she's a gadget geek, always on her gadgets. And I think many, many children will probably identify with this gadget geek. And, she's like, gosh, I've just got to go off with my father because he's working there through the vacations. And what am I going to do? I'm just going to be deadly dull bored. She couldn't be more wrong. She goes off thinking nothing ever happens here. And of course, what happens is that she does stumble upon like a poaching, like the thing that a tiger is good, a mystery that involves the poaching of a tiger. And she meets a new friend, a new friend that she meets at Ranthambore called Satya. And the two of them, can they save the tiger and the tigress and her cub? Actually, it's a fantastic it's a pacey read, and it really takes us into the heart of Ranthambore, like which really sort of brings alive the beauty of the national park for readers who haven't visited. So we always tell people, when you're traveling and you're going with your kids, give them these books, because there's such fantastic introductions to the exciting world that they're going to see, once they head off, to Ranthambore. And for those of us who haven't gone or who haven't traveled, well, no better way than to travel through books. Another one from Ranthambore by the wonderful Deepak Dalal, called Ranthambore Adventure. Again, Vikram and Aditya, two boys, who get themselves to Ranthambore. And you are familiar with Deepak Dalal's writings. He is, his heart is absolutely in conservation. He travels to all these places and then writes the books. I mean, he spends many days, many months, many weeks, sometimes even years, going over and over again to ensure that the mysteries that he writes are absolutely set in the correct context. David Williams, I can see you say mesmeric is my favorite new word. The guest appearer said tigers were always mesmeric to me. What a fantastic word to describe the allure of the tiger. Honestly, I just love the person whose name has to be guessed and the work that he's done in tiger conservation. Of course, Sunila is saying that Ambushed is a fantastic book, but Deepak Dalal, truly doing a lot of research to set his books in different wild locales of India. And the Ranthambore adventure that we're recommending today, again, similarly, like Nainika's book, two boys who have to solve a mystery set deep in the game park at Ranthambore. Two lovely books we'd recommend, both for 9, 10+ year olds, depending on the levels in which your kids are reading. But absolutely fantastic books to recommend to young readers. And the last one, just so that we don't leave young adults out, is this lovely new book. I mean, it's published by Red Panda, which is a publishing house that, alas, got shut down by Amazon. But we are delighted that they're back in a new avatar, and they assure us that Akshay Manwani's book is certainly going to be reprinted and available again. We did, when we knew Red Panda was shutting down, we did quickly order several of their books to keep with us, because we really feel there should be no reason why publishing houses get shut down for all sorts of reasons that are not connected to books, frankly. And this one is one of the nicest ones from their collection, called The Tiger, the Bear, and the Battle for Mahovan. This is certainly a book for older readers. We'd say 11 plus, maybe, or 12 plus, depending on the levels at which they're reading. It's an animal story set in Mahovan. There is Veera, the old tiger king of Mahovan. There is also, I mean, he is just on the verge of retirement, but there is one big decision, and a very, very unfortunate one, that he needs to make before he retires. And that is of sending his trusted friend and lieutenant in the jungle, Bhairav, to prison. Now, why does he need to do that? You just have to read this fantastic book set in, in Mahovan. But, is it just a story set in Mahovan? Is it just a story about animals? What I love is the focus on self belief, on facing up to insurmountable tasks, that sparkles off almost all the chapters of Akshay Manwani's book. And I really think readers 12 plus who have truly, had to brave many, many odds across the last 2 years to continue keeping their sanity intact would absolutely love reading a book about, the choices we make, and what are the consequences of the choices we make, and how is justice done, how is justice served, whether it's in the jungle or in the real world. The Mahovan book is just a fantastic read. Archana Atri, what a pleasure to see you here this morning. We've missed you in the last couple of bazaars, and you are right, the Mahovan book is an absolutely fabulous read. With that, we are done with our recommendations for the day, but there are tons of tiger books in our collection. I mean, I'm just delighted that there are close to 50, 60 books that focus exclusively on the tigers for children of all ages. We've got a smattering, we've got one or two for adults, we've got like the Jim Corbett omnibus. Okay, Sham's telling me we have 76 books on the tiger up in our Tiger Bazaar. www.funkyrainbow.com is our website. Please click on the tag that says Book Bazaar. There's a drop down menu that will take you to season 5, and one of the themes up there is tigers. Lots of big books to browse on, because I really think, the best way to sort of show your solidarity for the tiger, the best way to do things to conserve the tiger is to roar with books, for starters. And we have a lot of them put out for you, so do consider picking them up from Funky Rainbow. I'm just going to check if our guest of the day is here this morning. Before we welcome Rohan Chakravarti, do we want to send out the invitation on Instagram as well, Sham? Could we just quickly send out the invitation on Instagram before Rohan joins us and we get on our chat with him? Just bear with us for 5 minutes, folks. We're going to connect up on Instagram so our friends on Instagram can watch the conversation as well. Sorry? We need to see he's accepted it as well. Is he up on Instagram? Maybe the I've sent the invitation. Okay, you can type on the message thing to say that you've sent the Instagram invitation. So if he hasn't seen his phone, he can see you. Okay, all right. He's not out, but he can hear you. Okay, all right. I mean, I can't understand. Huh? Yeah, all right. Just a moment before we get good morning, Rohan. What a pleasure to see you.
Good afternoon, Vidya. Thanks so much for the opportunity, and I'm really grateful for the very kind and flattering things that the audience has been saying about me. Thanks for reading my work, and I'm really elated to know that so many of you are familiar with what I draw and write about.
You just look at the number of comments. I think they've just been waiting, all our readers, all our fans of all ages. I think we have the youngest one who's 3, probably, who's a little girl of 3 called Ameya, who's joined us today. And there's people who go up to, grandparents as well who have joined us, all big Rohan Chakravarti fans.
Thank you so much.
So he's up on Instagram as well, right? Okay, that's just fantastic. I'm so delighted. I think it's easy to go through a pile of books, but handling tech is like really, sort of. Okay, and a Grey Stroke Sham's asking you, is that Srishti at the back?
Oh, that's Sakshi, and she's injured, and I'm nursing an injured pet right now. So please bear with any accidents that may happen during the course of
Not,
of this session.
there is an open invitation from one more co-founder of Funky Rainbow, dog crazy co-founder of Funky Rainbow called Muttama, who says if Rohan ever wants to visit and wants a place for his dogs, I will happily
Oh
have him
wow! Thank you
have
so
them
much.
at
Thank you
home.
so
She
much.
has 3 dogs herself, and she wanted me to personally say that she is very happy to extend an invitation, and we really hope you visit
That's
Bangalore
wonderful.
with.
The invitation goes the other way as well to Mutamap. You're welcome to my place as well, and I'd love to introduce my dogs to yours.
Lovely, lovely, lovely. So we will. I want to introduce you to the audience. I can see Avyuk saying, "Auntie, my father says it would be great if you could get the person on whom the quiz is based to come as a guest to the bazaar one day." Absolutely, Avyuk. Thank you for that wonderful suggestion. We wonder whether we'd be able to bring him up to our bazaar, but we never thought Rohan would come as well, and he's here this morning.
Oh, I'm
So
far more available and approachable, so don't worry about that.
same league, Rohan, just
No, no.
absolutely same league as far as we are concerned. But just to our audience, for those of you who may not be familiar, and I think they're just few and far between of people who are not familiar, Rohan is a cartoonist and illustrator from Nagpur and the creator of the Green Humor, cartoon strips, which is like a series on wildlife, nature, environment, and conservation. What is fantastic is that it was the first series of comics from India to be distributed internationally by a major syndicate, which is Universal Press's Go Comics, and appears periodically in newspapers and wildlife magazines all over the world. He also collaborates with organizations working on wildlife and conservation to produce illustrated awareness material. And of course, Rohan has won several awards, from the UNDP, from Sanctuary Asia, from WWF International, Royal Bank of Scotland, and the Green Literature Festival for his work. Now, this is probably something that a lot of you know, but I loved the last line of his description to us, where he said he's notorious for rolling up into a ball like a pangolin to avoid answering the phone or meeting people. Okay, so people, you have Rohan Chakravarti here. Please understand that it's as good as probably seeing some animal up in the wild, which is a rare sighting. This, I believe, is a rare sighting as well. And I'm sorry if that's not the case, Rohan, but
Well, it's easier virtually. Had this been a live session, you would probably see me rolled up into a ball like a pangolin. I'm just kidding.
and I can see a couple of, I think it's Avyuk saying, hello, hello, we are excited to see you. Naturalist Ruddy
Thank you so
is
much.
our favorite.
Mine too.
We,
Thanks so much.
we will start off with our first question for you, Rohan. I mean,
Yeah.
you qualified to become a dentist. Seriously, how did you sink your teeth into cartooning?
I actually did not enjoy dentistry. From a very small town, Nagpur, and there is practically no awareness in my city about careers in the arts. And I just happened to join the rat race for the lack of knowledge of doing anything better with my passion. So it was during the course of the pursuing dentistry that I realized that this is really not for me. Peeping into rotten mouths coming from such a beautiful city that's surrounded by forests. No offense to the profession, it's a very noble profession. It's just not for some people, and I'm one of them. And yeah, it was around the same time that I started volunteering for Kids for Tigers. It's a Sanctuary Asia initiative, and that stint needed me to know more about wildlife, to know more about both urban and forest wildlife, to take kids out on nature trails, on bird watching walks, and that's how I began to get interested. And I was also dabbling as a cartoonist, not really finding my feet, drawing about random things like politics, Bollywood, social issues, etc. But when wildlife happened, it came in the form of a tiger sighting, coincidentally.
Ah.
And when that happened, I finally began to find my purpose as an artist. Trying to merge wildlife and conservation issues with cartoons and see what comes out of it. Eventually, 5 years down the line, my series Green Humor was born.
That is just lovely. Sham, he has my next question is about the tigress that he really spotted, and he has sent us a cartoon of that. I want to say, Haripriya Batula has just written in saying, we are huge fans of your work, Rohan, at the Bookshelf Library. She runs a lovely community library in Hyderabad, and she says, 10-year-old Desh said, which I'm assuming he's one of the children who come to use the library. 10-year-old Desh said you are his inspiration when he
Oh
walked
my
into the
gosh.
library for the first time.
I'm
Just
usually a really bad influence on kids, so thank you, Desh, for saying that.
it's evident you're poo-pooing dentistry for sure and saying, like, sink your teeth into cartooning, but we're just hoping that there's a tons of such bad influence that comes our children's ways. Like, okay. So tell us, you actually said just now that it was a spotting a tigress that actually got you into wildlife
That's right.
cartooning. Tell us a little bit about it, both the tigress that you spotted and how you chose to make nature and conservation the focus of your work.
Well, it was one of the first safaris I ever took, into a forest. This was Nagzira Wildlife Sanctuary. Now it's a tiger reserve. Back then it was just a wildlife sanctuary. And the moment we entered the gate, there was this tigress right in front of us. Now, I don't know what it is about the feline gaze or just the magic of the animal, but something sparked within me. And, I think for a lot of artists, it is just that one fleeting moment, one encounter with something that inspires you uh, beyond what you can fathom. And that was this tigress for me. And of course it was a female in a luxuriating in a water hole. Of course that has its own impact.
Sham, you should put that one up again. Sorry, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
sure.
You
No, no,
should
no.
put the female luxuriating in a water hole, and this conjures that lovely image which you've drawn. So I'm just asking Sham to pull it up. But go ahead. Sorry to
So,
interrupt.
no,
Yeah.
so yeah, it was just a very beautiful animal and just doing its own thing. And I don't know I can't put in words what it sparked within me, but some magic happened. Uh, and yeah, 5 years down the line, I became a wildlife cartoonist, so to say.
I mean, it was World International Tiger Day that went past yesterday, 29th of July. So would you like to share one or two sighting experiences that you've had?
Oh, absolutely. I've had wonderful experiences with tigers. I've been very lucky to have seen a lot of tigers, and as part of my career, as part of the work I do, I often collaborate with forest departments to bring out posters on specific conservation campaigns. Um, they could be maps of certain national parks and tiger reserves, for which I undertake very extensive field visits. And it is during these visits that I've had a chance to meet a lot of tigers. Like this picture, thank you, Sham. This picture is from Kanha, of two tiger cubs, recently fledged tiger cubs, just running across our path. And it is, it's a really magical thing to see tigers in their natural element. And a lot of times what happens is that the tiger has seen us, but we fail to see the tiger. It's that kind of a creature. It's very elusive. And quite often,
Correct.
like in so many of the books you've mentioned, we only tend to see evidence of the tiger being present, and a langur that may be calling out to other herbivores to alert them about the presence of a carnivore, deer making alarm calls, then pug marks, scratch marks, scat. These are the things you normally see. You mentioned William. Sorry.
Jim
No, no,
Corbett?
no. The poem. I forget the poet's name.
Oh,
Right in the beginning,
William
William
Blake.
Blake. Yes. So you
William
mentioned
Blake.
William Blake's
Yeah.
poem. My favorite tiger poem is Bittu Sehgal's spin-off on William Blake's poem. It goes like this:
Please narrate it to us.
uh, Tiger, tiger, burning bright, shining forest of the night. I searched through grass. I searched through pits. All I found was tiger shit. That's Bittu Segal's spin-off of that famous poem. So that's how tiger sightings often happen in the wild, and just to see a tiger is something, a matter of great fortune. And I'm really lucky to have experienced that so many times.
Yeah, I can absolutely imagine that, and I love that poem. A proper British English poem, absolutely changed by an Indian conservationist who really tells you what it is like on the ground. I mean,
Right.
in fact, at the beginning of the show, I was talking about a trip to Corbett where it was just remarkable how many stories abound about tigers just being everywhere. I mean, I was there with my niece and with my nephews, and we had to go somewhere into town in an auto, and the guy at the auto chap was telling us, अरे आपने अभी तक टाइगर देखा ही नहीं क्या? हम कल इसी रास्ते पे जा रहे थे और एक टाइगर ऐसे हमारा पाथ क्रॉस किया, मेरे रोंगटे खड़े हो गए एंड आई एम लाइक रियली हमारे तो कुछ दिख ही नहीं रहा है. I think a lot of the thing in being these tiger places is the myths and the legends and the lore and the stories that sort of surround,
Absolutely. In fact, my
because
brother
we
and I
know.
have a really evil prank that we play on tourists who cross our paths in national parks and tiger reserves and ask us if we've seen the tiger, and we say yes, we've seen tigers, lots of tigers, and they ask us really, and we say, the plain tiger butterfly, the striped tiger butterfly, they're tigers after all. So,
He has one cartoon on the different kinds of tigers. You can show it up because he's
oh
being
yeah,
so wicked with maybe tourists and travelers like us who end up at places and like, aapne dekh liya? Did you see it? We didn't see that one. While you put it up, Sham, I'm going to, so what is it like? No, not this one. He has one of the different kinds of tigers, Sham. What's a day in the life of a cartoonist like, Rohan? I mean, do you script your cartoon first and then draw, or do you come up with the line first and then, make the drawing first and then write the lines?
I think I may be a bit of an anomaly when it comes to drafting the process of drafting a cartoon. I'm a very visually oriented person, so I know this for a fact that a lot of cartoonists, comic book artists, start with words. The picture comes
Hmm.
first, but for me it's the reverse. I don't know how exactly it happens, but it's always the imagination of a visual that prompts a cartoon for me, and then the words come. So. Yeah, that's how I approach my work.
Okay, he has some lovely visuals of his adventures in cartooning. Sham, you may want to show. Sorry, you found the tiger one. Okay, all right.
Ah,
So
yes.
you can put that up on the screen so people can see that one, about how gullible tourists have to see the moth tiger, the tiger shrimp, the tiger seahorse, the different tigers that Rohan has absolutely. You can in fact show up a couple of more tiger strips if you'd like to, because if there are people who are not familiar with Rohan's work, it's a great opportunity to see the strips that he himself has shared with us. Social networking the tiger way is just terrific.
I've actually
Okay,
smelled this, and I can attest that this is true.
does it truly smell like buttered popcorn? Come on,
Well,
tell us, out with it,
to
Rohan.
some noses, it's more like basmati rice, but I think it's popcorn is a very good buttered popcorn is a very good comparison, at least from my
All
experience.
right. If you insist, but there you are. All these lovely, green humor cartoons in Rohan's book called Green Humor for a Graying Planet and Naturalist Study, which leads me to the next question. Tell us about your books, Rohan, Naturalist Study and Green Humor for a Graying Planet. What was your experience like of sort of writing and illustrating these books as against creating the very popular green humor cartoon strips?
Well, the book Green Humor for a Green Planet is actually just a compilation of
That's right.
cartoons and comics you see in my Green Humor columns. Most of them have appeared in newspapers like Sunday Midday and The Hindu. And that's what the compilation is about. There's really nothing complicated about it. Naturalist study, however, was something that I created from scratch. It was actually the politics in my conservation cartoons that led me to create naturalist study, because I really needed a break from the dreariness of conservation politics and all the environmental misgovernance that I've been portraying in my cartoons. I needed a break from that because I needed to retain my sanity and just return to the feeling of exploring wildlife, exploring the natural world without having to worry about other larger issues. And that's, I think, also how a lot of us fall in love with nature in the first place. The element of curiosity, the element of exploration, and that's something I wanted to emphasize and bring back into my own creative narrative. And I think I really owe that mongoose my sanity, because in a way Ruddy saved me from the dreariness of politics. Naturalist study is about
Right.
a mongoose who's a detective, or at least who thinks who's a detective, and everything that he observes in the national park that he lives in, which is Kanha, and he also visits a lot of other places in his adventures, and everything that he observes in the forest, he treats them as crime scenes, and he goes about solving these crime scenes, and in that process,
Superb.
Ruddy and the reader become intimate with nature, explore a lot more things that you may otherwise overlook or not think about. So that's what the book is about.
Yeah, it is just such a it takes on page after page. You are also deducing many things with Ruddy. When you read the books about different creatures, I think many of you are already familiar with the book, but those of you who are not, set in the forests of central India, and Ruddy, as he unearths all sorts of things about creatures great and small. It's really a one of its kind comic book, actually. And I can see some fans who've already got the book are saying, I have a question to ask Rohan. Have you ever thought of making a detective game with naturalist Ruddy, like a board game with flashcards of trivia?
Oh gosh. No, I am very happy with Ready just being a book. I keep getting questions about making it into a movie, a TV show, and I want none of that. I'm a lover of books and comic books especially, and I really like Ready to just be that.
Yay, you can say that again. You're a lover of books. We are just so happy. But, Avyukt, you can go ahead and create a game for your family just out of this book. I mean, he says, me and my sister play pretend naturalist Ruddy with our animal detective kit, and we were able to spot a snake skin hanging on a tree once.
Oh wow, that's a crime scene in itself, and I'd really love to join you sometime in your adventures.
That is just absolutely lovely, Rohan. You've also, illustrated for some books, and
Yeah.
we do have a clutch of those as well. We started out with Watch Out, the Tigers Here. Then you've done the series with Sejal Mehta. Did you hear? I love Who Ate All That Up, about how nothing goes wasted in the forest. And there is Wildcat as well, right? So where you're not writing and you're only illustrating, what is that experience like? Just tell us.
Oh, it's so much enjoy. It's very enjoyable because it takes a lot of pressure off you, especially with a writer like Sejal. We've collaborated quite a few times. She's edited a lot of my work before at National Geographic Traveler, at Nature in Focus. So we're very familiar with each other's workflow and the kind of motivations that drive us. So it was really enjoyable working with Sejal, and the kind of stories she's written are even though they're extremely simple, they are very expressive. And
Hmm.
for an illustrator, they give you a chance to play around a lot, and you practically have a lot of freedom to imagine the world that you want to portray, because the sentences are so minimalistic and yet so expressive. So that was a very
Absolutely.
exciting challenge that Pratham threw at me, and I think the series of 4 books is quite popular among young readers.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, we wanted to ask, do the tigers sound exactly like that? I mean, or the different creatures whose sounds have been replicated in
Actually,
that
yeah, yes,
watch.
and we did a small promotional video that you'll find on Pratham Books' YouTube, where I also try to mimic a few of these animals and their alarm clocks.
Really?
Yeah,
We have to see that one, because there's so few words in that book. And I mean, I'm just trying to pull it out. I know we put a recommendation to it, and I probably, of course, messed up the table and put it in somewhere, but yeah, there it is.
yeah.
Okay. I mean, it's impossible not to miss those lovely sounds. Cow, cow, cuck. I'm like, wow, does something really sound like that? We've got to go pull out your video and watch it for sure. Sham, before we get on to the next question, I mean, or maybe even along with the next question, I wanted to, the audience to see those lovely cartoons that he's made about him working, all right, which are just so delightful. If you can show them up, the ones that I showed you in the morning today, Sham. We're just going to put those up before we get on to the next question, Rohan.
Yeah, that's happens every time I see something for the first time, and I have no track of where I'm stepping my next foot. This has
I just
actually
love.
happened. A wild boar has chased me on one of my bird watching walks, and it was a very close shave. Thankfully, no bones were broken.
Where was that? Where did that
This was in a
happen? Where did the
lake,
boat chase?
a city forest called Telankhedi in Nagpur, where I come from.
Okay, all right. And of course, I just loved this one when I
I
saw
have
it
these
this morning.
handmade sparrow boxes that I've put up in several spots in my house, and they've thankfully been occupied by sparrows for several seasons now. Now, at least for the last 8 years. So this is one of the pair of sparrows that I watch every day.
And of course, there's one of Rohan actually working. I mean, with just working and not, cartooning himself like that, which is also a lovely one. But,
Yeah.
there he is with his laptop and, some lovely pictures behind him. But tell me, which cartoonist? I mean, are there some cartoonists who've inspired you or whose work really brings a smile to your face,
Oh yeah,
Rohan?
so many. I think I think one artist, if I had to name one artist who's solely responsible for me choosing to be an artist in the first place, that would be Gendy Tartakovsky. He's an animator. He's
Hmm.
directed Dexter's Laboratory, Samurai Jack. I've grown up on 2D animation, and his work has been instrumental.
Sham's already screaming Dexter's Lab over here,
Yeah.
right?
So, in
So,
fact, my one of my books, Bird Business, pays tribute to his art style, and
oh,
yeah, that was my way of thanking him. He's been my imaginary mentor throughout my life. Other cartoonists who inspired me are Bill Watterson of Calvin and Hobbes.
of course, Calvin and
Coincidentally,
Hobbes.
a tiger is a prime protagonist of that series.
Yes.
Then there's been Gary Larson, who really
Yeah.
whose dark and
Far
offensive
side.
humor is really something that drives me, and I always try to incorporate a lot more of that in my work as well. And I really love the fact that Gary never cared about whether his audience would be offended or not, and that's something I really aspire as a cartoonist. Uh, there are many others, Nina Pally, R.K. Lakshman to a certain extent. Speaking about cartoonists, and yeah, I think yeah, among my peers, there's Rosemary Moscow from Canada, who's a biologist and a cartoonist, and she draws a lot about ecological issues and biology.
Okay.
So yeah, these are some of the people that come to my mind right now.
Superb. And I love that imaginary mentor, like, right? I mean,
Yeah,
sounds like the imaginary tiger from Calvin and Hobbes,
right.
definitely. But have you, I mean, I'm sure you can write to many of them now, and perhaps they will, love to
Oh,
see your
absolutely.
work
In
and
fact,
say,
recently I wrote to Bob Weber Jr., who created Slylock Fox. It's a series
okay.
about a detective fox who goes about solving little mysteries, and that had a major influence on Naturalist Ready. So I wrote to him. I even sent him a copy of the book, and to my very pleasant surprise, he wrote back saying that he enjoyed the book as well. So that was a very
Ah.
very touching moment for me as an artist.
So lovely, so lovely, really. So I mean, do you think that, when one sort of sees the funny side of serious things in life, it actually changes the way you think, it changes the way you engage with things, and it actually probably prompts you to act? I mean, that's
Yeah.
really what your green humor cartoon strips, I think, have managed to achieve for a lot of us readers, frankly.
Well, I think green humor. Most of my work is both cynical and hopeful in equal measure, depending on the circumstances it is portraying. But the element of hope that that artists generally bring out in their work, and my work to a certain extent, I think that really keeps an artist going, because artists, at least the ones I know, including myself, are extreme pessimists in their personal lives, and they really need to latch on to some kind of some perception of hope, some semblance of positivity, which I think their art gives them in certain ways. So I think cartooning has always been that for me, and portraying humor in situations that are not necessarily humorous. I think that
Mhm.
really keeps artists like me going.
Very, very well responded. I mean, it's true even for all of us. I mean, when we chuckle, when we look at, some of your strips, we're laughing. And I do believe that, somewhere that humor helps you think a little bit more, I mean, about what you can do. I mean, perhaps engage with the issue. I'm sure it's not possible to engage with every single issue, but when humor comes into the picture, it probably sets you in a better frame of mind to sort of think and, try to do something to change
No, you're right with you.
things
And
that are
not only
not so
that,
all right.
I've done cartoon workshops with a lot of different kinds of audiences. And what I've noticed is that when a particular fact or a piece of trivia or or a piece of news is presented as a humorous visual, the audience not only tends to retain it for longer, but also tends to want to respond to it. And that's the power
Absolutely.
humor over plain text or plain illustration or just a photograph. I think that's another level of engagement with your audience, and that's what I think makes a cartoon or anything humorous, a lot more effective than plain information.
So well said. So well said. That actually brings me to my last question. I mean, often, because we recommend books to readers of all ages and we're engaging with parents and teachers and librarians, many of them, I mean, understand that humor is an important part of life, but they tend to think that that's like a little less important than the other serious things in life, really. So what would advise them? And I think a
Just
lot of
tickle
the
them.
advice needs to
Just
go
tickle
to
them.
adults. What would you say?
I said just tickle them first.
You think
No,
we
no.
have to hire an official tickler at Funky Rainbow? Yes, we have a job and a position there now to say, loosen up, folks. Like, okay, just laugh about it. But really, what can you tell them about taking humor seriously? I mean,
Well,
why should they?
see, like I said, there are examples. If I had to quote examples from my own work, there was this case where somebody read my comic strip about the illegal pet trade in the Amazon basin. A lot of primates are captured illegally and sold in various countries in South America. And I drew a comic strip about that. And somebody from Peru wrote to me saying that he was considering buying a marmoset. Marmosets are tiny monkeys, and he read my strip and he refrained from doing so. So that was one incident where my art and my humor actually managed to save the life of at least one wild animal. And these are tangible impacts of humor that are, uh, I think, are happening a lot more often these days because different kinds of media can come together thanks to the internet. And there are tangible examples. There are tangible. There are so many cases of illustrations and art helping a lot of scientists bridge the gap between their subjects and laymen.
Absolutely.
So yeah, art is making a difference. Humor is making a difference in today's world. Thanks largely to different kinds of media coming together.
Absolutely. You know what, Sham? If you can show up some of Rohan's, I know he's shared a lot of strips with us, but there are those that he has sort of made illustrations of from the books. I mean, I would just like to. I think many people are familiar with Natural Study and with Green Humor for a Graying Planet. We also actually have something to chew on,
Oh
the
yeah.
book that you illustrated for Kalpavriksh as well, really. But these ones from this simple series, and because we have a viewer as young as 3 watching as well, you can see that these delightful illustrations for the early Pratham books, such a treat for readers. I mean, readers young and old is what I'd say, really. Yeah, those were from the series from Pratham, written by Sejal Mehta and illustrated by Rohan, and a couple of more strips if you have, Sham, before we sign off and say bye bye. I'd
Sorry,
love to leave.
while we are at it, I'll just like to interrupt you for a moment. Sejal, who collaborated with me on these 4 books, has come up with her own book now. It's a fantastic book about the marine life of India, and
That's
I'd urge
right.
all of you to read it. Yeah, it's available on all platforms. It's called oh gosh, I have a problem with remembering names of
I think we
things
have
and
it at Funky Rainbow. Don't we have Sejal
yes,
Mehta's new book? I think we received it.
superpowers on
At,
the
I mean,
show.
I'm not.
Yes, oh gosh, thanks.
Ah,
I'm
okay,
not
all right,
completely
all
amnesiac
right.
as yet.
Okay, so
It's a
that is
Penguin
you,
publication.
or at least we tagged her. Is that for young readers? It's for adults, is
No, I
it
think it's for
the book,
everyone.
or
I
perhaps
don't
even
think
young
it's.
readers?
Yeah, I don't think it has an age cap as such,
Right,
and I think
right.
that's exactly how all books should be.
Yes, absolutely ageless, like Rohan Chakravarti's books are. Such a pleasure to host you here this morning, Rohan, and you're with Naturalist Ruddy, Green Humor for a Graying Planet. When you bring your wife and your dogs and come to Bangalore, please visit us at Funky Rainbow. We would love to get these copies autographed and send
Thank
them
you so
out to
much.
more and
Thank you
more
so much.
children that we hope to meet now that things have opened up, post the pandemic. Thank
Absolutely.
you so much for joining us today. What a pleasure it has been to chat with you, Rohan.
Thanks a lot, Vidya, and thanks a lot to the audience for bearing with me for the last half an hour.
Of course, Haripriya reminds me of the book that we don't have in stock. It's not available in print at the moment, which is Making
Oh, I
Friends
see.
with Snakes by Pratham, which is you worked with the wonderful Madras Crocodile Bank, I think, when you wrote the book. I think it's not in print, but for readers, who want to read it. It's up on their platform Storyweaver. To take a look at it. We did try to order it, but it hasn't come in. Sunila Kulkarni Gupte, also an author of a mystery set in the Harappan times, says, "Thank you so much, Rohan Chakravarti. This was such a super
Thank you, ma'am.
session, really." So there's going to be a lot more compliments coming in. We would be absolutely delighted to do something with you in the real world. We're keeping fingers
So would
crossed
I.
and
So
hoping
would
it'll
I.
happen
It would be
soon.
an honor. Thank you, Vidya.
Thank you, Rohan. Bye bye.
Bye. See you.
And what a pleasure it was to hear Rohan Chakravarti talk. So many wonderful insights in his conversation with us on what makes him, how he draws the cartoons he does, what his inspirations are, and, why it's important to absolutely look at books of cartoons, and to actually consider it as a serious literary form, because often it makes us think a lot more easily than something else does. And I think Rohan's green humor for a grain planet, a wonderful example of drawing attention to various environmental problems, various natural, to just like the traits of various animals, and sometimes the problems of conservation that we face in the world today. I mean, these are fantastic books. We have all of them up available at Funky Rainbow. The Pratham ones, which I showed up to you. There's Green Humor for a Grain Planet, which I think just works across all ages. There's Naturalist Ruddy. There's Something to Chew On. And of course, Making Friends with Snakes. You can check it out on Storyweaver's platform. It was such a pleasure hosting Rohan today. Thank you so much for all joining in and participating so enthusiastically. I'm just going to quickly say hello to just bunches and bunches of people who've joined us today: Sujata, Sumit, Pranay, Lakshmi, Dharani, Monish, Jeenu, Dhruv, Arinar, Aishab, Pavanisha, It's Anit, Nikhilan, Ayushi, Tejaswini, Bhargavi, Ashwini P, Soul Tripper, Ram Prasad, Jyoti Rani, Varma, Shonali, Aleka, Bhupati, Adishu, one second, you have to show me. Adishu Puli, Sunila, Trisha Pati, Anisha Agarwal, Dhiman Shweta, Wanderer, Srisha, Anjana, Anurag Soni, Ashon, Deeksha, Rohit, Jayasudha, Sherif, Archit Singh, so many new names. Binisha, Storytelling with Veena, Green Humor, Archana Atri, Ashwarya, Praveen, I'm Puneet, Malvika, Manasvi, Arti Mamta, David Williams, Tara Veera Raghavan, Sunita Kulkarni Gupte, Twist Tail, Janvi Asha, Rupa Baliga, Anita Satyajit, Yarini, Nayana Lohia, Talking Turtles, Tuti Agarwal, Divya Menon, The Magic Couch, Bharti Narayanan, Kahani Shala, Arundale, Anjani Rajagopal, Ayyar Dubai, Nandini, Book Pickle, Ramendra Kumar, Anita Venugopal. My gosh, what a lovely, lovely, great bunch of people who've joined us today. Many new names. Do check out our website, www.funkyrainbow.com. We are a traveling children's bookshop, and we have a collection of over 10,000 plus Indian children's books, Rohan's included. I mean, the focus of the show today was tigers. And for those of you who've joined us for the first time, you can browse through all the books we've recommended and a lot more. We recommended 10 books in the course of the show. There are 75 in our on our website on tigers. We really wish you a roaring weekend. And I can see Book Pickle saying we had a great time bearing with Rohan. Looking forward to more. Here's to a roaring weekend with children's books on the tiger, including Rohan's fantastic ones, Green Humor for a Grain Planet and Naturalist Ruddy. We'll see you next week with another Buzzaar. Till then, stay reading, stay roaring. Bye bye.